Good morning. Hey, good morning. Hey, Dika. How's everybody doing today? It's a beautiful day here in New Hampshire. Sun is shining. Birds are tweeting. It's because the birds don't know how to use Discord. Little joke there. So it's a kind of quiet day here. Hey, Burkan. I'll give a few more minutes for everybody to show up, and we'll get into it. What are you guys doing today? Jeffrey, good morning. By the way, if it makes you feel any better, you're sitting on a can of Bondo. Just trying to find the correct camera angle, height, stand, disposition. Making some stamping numbers. Oh, do you make custom stamps or are you stamping? Which of those is true? Please tell us. Oh, you're just making. Okay. So I've played with the idea of trying to make them. I theoretically have everything I need, but I've never made a stamp. That would be kind of fun. Fun project. Excellent. I'm wondering if Chris checks in this morning. Hey, good morning. So Chris P, if he checks in, somebody let me know, because he ordered stones yesterday, I think, and they're packaged and ready to go. They'll be heading out. So we'll give it till 12:05 here, and then we'll start chatting. Do you guys think that we should push the time of our Instagram lives a little later? Do you think we should do that? I'm not sure, because on the West Coast it's only 9 o'clock in the morning, so maybe it'd be better if we were a little later. I'm open-minded about it. Anyway, welcome aboard. Happy Sunday. Last week, actually the previous 10 days since Labor Day Friday until Thursday night, actually Friday morning, but Thursday night, I was cranking to fill orders. Hey, Miguel. And we had a ton of orders. And I had done this installation, and that ate up a bunch of time. So now everybody's showing up. Mittler Machine Works, welcome aboard. So we had a very, very busy week, long week, and we got it done. We got caught up, got down to 0. The biggest single order, which I won't identify them because they haven't given me permission, was a laboratory, and they ordered a bunch of stones. 27 pounds was the shipment. So that was pretty exciting. Got that done. Whew. Went out the door and on schedule. Actually ahead of schedule. A few days ahead of schedule, which was pretty awesome. So we're kind of caught up. Everything I'm going to do today is for safety stock. Hey, Adam. Welcome. So, Adam, you're in a weird time zone, so I'm very glad you were able to show up at this time of day. Anyway, I was just saying how it's been a crazy 10 days here, just cranking on stones. So we got caught up. So this morning I'm doing a little maintenance. If you saw my posts from this morning, I did a check on my spindle. I did a check on my diamond wheel. I'm going to do a couple other things, and I'll report on them if I have any discoveries. I had some ideas in the last couple of days I want to check on. The 3D lab down in the basement has been busy. You're sitting in a little iPhone stand right now of somebody else's design. I must have printed about 5 of these so far, but of course I can't find any of them. So I printed 2 more this morning, and you're sitting in one right now. So, and then also downstairs in the 3D printing lab, I've got a cradle. So I laser mark the stones, and when I go to laser mark and the stones can all sit by themselves on the table. They don't need any fixturing. And there's locator pins on the table of the laser. So the stones go into their location. I hit the button. It does the lasering. And then I switch stones and I hit the button. And it's a very good process. But of course the round stones I have to do on the edge. So I made a very compressed marking, which you may have seen in the posts. And then I put them on a V-block, which unfortunately I don't have any of that stuff here. It's all in the basement. But I have a pair of cast, machined, ground V-blocks, which everybody should have if they have a milling machine. And then I clamped a flat on one side, and the round stones just sit in the V, and I clamped them lightly to the back plate, which was a scrap of G10 material from my buddy GLG Knife Works. So that worked great. So what I wanted to do is 3D print a cradle for doing that job, and that's what's printing right now down in the lab. So making fixtures, making cradles, making pipe adapters is what goes on down in the 3D printing area, and it's go from idea to having it in your hand in a couple hours is fantastic. So what else? There was a question last week, and I can't remember who asked it, and I didn't research it, so I apologize. And I don't think he's here yet. So I guess we'll just say it. The question was about Hilltop Steakhouse. Because he was familiar with the area, maybe from going to school. He wanted to know if Hilltop Steakhouse up on Route 1, north of Boston. Actually, it's sort of down for me, but when I was going to school, it was up north. If that was still around, and the answer is no. Hilltop Steakhouse folded up its tent, I think, in 2012, and there is no more Hilltop Steakhouse. So we'll if he shows up, gosh, does anybody remember who it was? Anyway, Hilltop Steakhouse, not around anymore. Nobody gave me feedback about moving the live down to a slightly later time. Like if we moved it down to 1 p.m. or even 2 p.m., would that be okay? Oh, there's Octane. Welcome aboard. Hey Octane, do you remember who asked the question last week about Hilltop Steakhouse? I didn't write down the name. Anyway, so those are the two questions I had for you guys. Should we move it to actually one question? Should we move the time to a little bit later? Dika says it's good for him. Hey Octane. So I've got a milling project coming up. Yeah, no problem. I've got a milling project coming up, Octane, and your chip guards or slot guards, give me the name so I don't screw it up, are going to be put to the test, and we're going to be making some more fixtures out of A2 tool steel. Yeah, okay, Dika. Thanks for checking in. There's nothing earth-shattering today. You're not going to miss anything except the joke. Sorry. You'll have to pull it up on the video. I did research a joke for today. A chip guard. Okay, so Octane Work Holding makes this great product called Chip Guard, which is a laser cost. Okay, I'll get to that, Adam. The chip guard product goes into the slots on the milling machine and keeps the chips from packing into the slots, and it's molto bono. So I think it's getting its first real wet test this week when I get these parts going. Adam Duke asks, what is the rough ballpark on the cost of the laser? So that laser is a fiber laser. It's called the Epilogue Fusion 12. So it's 12 by 24. It's a gantry laser, and it is a fiber laser. And I'll explain why I keep emphasizing that. And that was about $20,000. Now, before you guys like jump out of your skins, this is not a CO2 laser, and if you guys know lasers, everything I'm about to say is redundant and superfluous at the same time. There's two kinds of lasers on the market. CO2 lasers are the most common. The so-called hobby lasers, they're all CO2 lasers, okay? And they're relatively inexpensive. So the same machine, except with a CO2 laser in it, is $12,000, thereabouts. And the difference is the wavelength of laser light that's coming out of the laser. So a CO2 laser, I think it's 10,000 angstroms or 10,000. I think it's 10,000 nanometers. Anyway, it's a long wavelength. Sorry, I don't have the exact numbers. The fiber laser, which gets its name for a stupid reason, is a shorter wavelength laser. It's 10 times smaller wavelength, and the equivalent is it's 10 times higher in frequency. That's the same. I just said the same thing two different ways. So a fiber laser will etch metal. I could put tool steel, aluminum, steel, titanium, whatever you like, and it will etch it. It will blast material out of the work and make a subsurface mark. A CO2 laser will not do that. A CO2 laser will not touch metal. Conversely, if I put a piece of blue, I did this, it was actually kind of amazing. If I put a piece of blue painter's tape on top of something in the laser and I hit it with the fiber laser, it won't touch it. It was the most amazing thing. It doesn't do anything. But as soon as it comes off of that blue painter's tape and it hits a piece of metal, it starts etching the metal. So they're two different animals, and the way it was explained to me is that the organic molecules, you know, wood, paper, even plastic, because that's hydrocarbons, are kind of big, and the big wavelength interacts with that. And metals have very small molecules, and the short wavelength interacts with that. So you may have seen Derek from Malden. If you don't follow Derek from Malden, he's a woodworker, but he's a great guy, and he does a good Instagram story and good posts. He's been selling some mugs, and he laser engraves the mugs. But it's important to point out that those are stainless mugs with a paint on them, or, you know, a coating, and then the CO2 laser that he has. Hey, Chris. The CO2 laser that he has is blasting the paint off, but it's not touching the metal. Okay, so that's a good example of a CO2 laser in action. Whereas the fiber laser, the short wavelength laser, that's what I'd prefer to call it, as a short wavelength laser as opposed to a long wavelength laser. The short wavelength laser will, if you set up your recipe correctly, it will literally etch the metal. It will engrave the metal. It'll also do some other cool things. That mark right there is actually an oxidation mark. They call it annealing in the laser world, but basically it's the same as heat bluing, which is the same as oxidation. Okay, and if you turn your power settings appropriately and your speeds and feeds appropriately on a laser, it'll do a nice mark like this on a stainless or a tool steel. So that's the difference in the lasers. So that was a very long answer to a very short question. The rough ballpark on the cost of the laser, $20K. And that was purchased, believe it or not, the primary purpose was to mark the stones. And the secondary purpose was everything else. But I also have some products coming up made out of A2 tool steel, which, well, I'll show you an example. This is not the product, but oh, hang on, here it is. Where are you? Please stand by. There we go. So this is just a V block, and there's the Kinetic Precision mark on it. So this is A2 tool steel, hardened to Rockwell 58 or 60. I can't remember what I did, and then marked in the laser with so-called annealing, but it's really an oxidation mark, and you cannot feel it, which is pretty cool. Actually, one of these marks, that's the mark that's oxidation. This is the mark that's an etching mark. This one you could barely feel. This one is just absolutely nothing. So you could mark a precision gauge and not remove any material. So that's the story there. Detroit Forge, welcome aboard. So, good question. Any other questions this morning? I'm wearing a gift. This was from GLG Knife Works with this is his lumber crayon. And I'm wearing it like any self-respecting carpenter would wear it. But this is not a lumber crayon. This is a self-defense weapon, which he makes, which is awesome. Check him out, GLG Knife Works. Can you etch carbide? I believe the answer is yes. Would you like me to do a test? I'll do a test. Etch carbide. I haven't done that yet. Although I will tell you that the silicon carbide stones etched beautifully. It blasted that material like nobody's business. But that's not a function of the silicon carbide. So, apples and oranges. I'll check that out for you. I'll get back to you. And that was low quality DS memes. So, gotcha. I'll take that under advisement. Almost machining. It's almost lunchtime. Welcome aboard. I got a lot of messages coming in. So that's the story on the laser. I'm very happy with it. So every stone, every PFG stone that leaves here is laser marked. And it's laser marked with a 4-digit date code, which is year. The first 2 digits is the year. He just woke up. So, okay, almost machining. We asked a question earlier as to whether we should move the time of the IG Live a little later for our West Coast people. So I don't remember where you are, but you can comment on that. So the date code that I'm putting on all the products that I ship is the same date code that is used on integrated circuits. If you look at chip packages, you'll see a 4-digit date code usually, and it's 2 digits for the year and 2 digits for the week number. So this, for example, I think we just started week 38, so it would say 2138. And I decided that a date code to the week is plenty, and I really wanted one. So that's happening now. So, cool. What else are you guys up to? You guys have just checked in. What are you doing today? What do you got on the agenda? So my next mission here is I'm going to do some experiments on the grinder, and I might start doing some grinding. I don't have any orders pushing it, but I've got my spreadsheet telling me that I need to make some safety stock. So I may do a few sets of stones today. Oh, the question came in. Stand by. Adam Duke says, how many Prusas did you end up with? Oh, you asked a very good question. So I have a surprising answer and a story for you. This is okay. You just gave us the story of the live today. So I had, for many months, I had one Prusa Mark III and one. Chris is finishing a knife grinding jig, going for a hike, and beat his head against the wall on a Fusion 360. Excellent. So I had a Prusa Mark III, i3 Mark III, and I had a Lulzbot Taz 6. I had the Taz 6 set up with a 0.8 millimeter nozzle, and I had the Prusa set up with its 0.4 millimeter from the factory nozzle. And in my head, it was big stuff, little stuff. The problem was it was 3 millimeter filament, 1.75 millimeter filament. So I decided I was going to standardize on the Prusa and sell or otherwise dispose of the Taz 6, which I did. So then I bought one more Prusa to bring me up to 2. I wanted 3. So then a bunch of orders came in for PFG Stones, and that prompted me to go ahead and order the 3rd one. So I did. They were all kits. One I had for a long time, and 2 came in pretty recently. Both kits, built the kits. They were perfect right out of the gate. But now, as the old Paul Harvey radio commentator said, now you're going to hear the rest of the story. So my son comes to me and he says, Dad, I got this project. I want to make dice for tabletop gaming, and I want to make resin molded dice. So the process is you have a resin printer, which I don't have, and you print your positives, and then you put that in a silicone, and you make a mold, and then you pull your positives out, and you now use resin in the silicone molds to make the dice or whatever you're making. So I saw this as an opportunity to get him involved in 3D printing. So I said, sure, if you're serious about it, we'll do it. So he was serious about it, and I was able to justify getting a resin printer for business reasons, for prototyping and for engineering work. So I said, let's do it. So actually, before I bought FDM printer number 2 and 3, I actually ordered a Prusa SL1 resin printer. Proudly waving the Prusa flag. Well, months go by, and finally they ship it. Except then I get calls from FedEx telling me that I need to deal with customs issues. And I'm going to shorten this for you. It's a very long story. But they start sending me these forms for something called TCSA. And that's TSCA, Toxic Substance Component Act or something. So I had to answer some questions for customs about the substances in the shipment. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this. So I contact Prusa. And Prusa's like, yeah, just fill out the form. I'm like, how do I fill out the form? So this goes back and forth. And I was getting really steamed with Prusa. I'm a Prusa fanboy. So for me to get really pissed off with them, something was going on. And I told them, I said, you guys didn't prepare me for this, educate me for this. We had months to have this discussion about what had to be done when this thing was coming in. Nothing. So finally I told them that they had to clear this up or I'm going to cancel my order. Then they did some other stuff that also was very confusing, and I said to them that their right hand did not know what their left hand was doing. Finally, I get a call. This is the silver lining in the cloud. I get a call from FedEx, from the import agent that works at FedEx that was dealing with my stuff. And I had been interacting with Marjorie on email. And I finally got so steamed and just at my limit, and I said, call me. So nothing happened. Well, at about 5:30 my time, my cell phone rings. And it was Marjorie from FedEx. And to make a long story short, I have a new friend at FedEx. So Marjorie was a pro. And she explained everything to me. And it further convinced me that Prusa dropped the ball completely on these SL1 shipments. And I'll limit my complaint to the United States. And here's I learned a lot from Marjorie. But basically, there's two things going on. Number one, because the cost of the order went over a threshold, I think it was $2,500 was the threshold, and it was just over that, it triggered customs. And actually, that was not the problem, because FedEx automatically dealt with customs and automatically charged me through my FedEx account, and it was $36, I think. The problem was this toxic substance control blah 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 that Prusa didn't deal with. They put it on me. I didn't know how to fill out the forms. First I filled it out that said, yeah, this is what's in the shipment, and then Prusa says, no, you have to tell them that TSCA is not applicable. So I filled out the form and says, well, it's not applicable. And then because I ordered it under my company, FedEx comes back to me and says, well, your EIN number has been voided by U.S. Customs. I'm like, what are you talking about? So, long story short, U.S. Customs has some policies in place that are stupid. And FedEx told me that the number one reason that Customs voids a EIN number is that somebody used that number by mistake, and when things didn't match up, they void your number. And then it's up to me to unravel that mess. So I'm really ticked off about the whole thing. Really pissed off. I told Prusa 3 times to cancel my order and refund my money, and they kind of weaseled around 3 times, and I've let them. So right now the situation is that my whole order, I have to tell you a funny story about that. My whole order is sitting in Memphis, I think, waiting for me to clear everything up with Customs. So my bookkeeper and office administrator, Corrine, has been handed this problem to sort out, and she's sorting it out. And it might be another, I don't know, might be another couple of weeks. But not happy with Prusa, did not educate their customer, did not take responsibility. Marjorie at FedEx explained to me that there has to be a responsible party, and Prusa's basically saying, yeah, my customer is the responsible party. Well, that's fine if you tell your customer what they need to know, which they don't do. So, yeah, I don't even have it yet. It's sitting in Memphis, which sounds like a song, which I won't sing. Yeah, ticked off. I'll probably, in 6 months, I'll probably have the printer and be happy with it and won't be as mad with Prusa anymore. But, hey, Joseph Prusa, if you're listening, I'm pissed off. Anyway, there you go. That's the story. So here's the funny part of the story. So I'm in the midst of having this rather long, fruitful conversation with Marjorie at FedEx. And she's talking me down off the cliff. And, oh, hello, Conjet. So Marjorie's talking me down off the cliff. And she's going tackata on her computer, and she brings up the order. And she says, well, I see inside this order, there is a glue stick. And I started laughing. Because, of course, every order from Prusa comes with a glue stick. And I started laughing. I'm like, yes, it does have a glue stick. I don't know if you have kids, Marjorie, but remember art projects from school? That's the glue stick. There's a glue stick in there. She says, I know. But it's an adhesive, and according to Customs, you have to account for it in the TSCA filing. Now, of course, there's also resin in the order, which I expected that to be the issue, but the fact that she brought up a glue stick as being, the thing, I was just laughing. And actually, it was good that I had something to laugh at in that whole situation. Yeah, well, I'm not saying it wasn't the printer resin, but it was the first thing that Marjorie at FedEx brought up was the glue stick. Now, so the rest of the story is, if every damn shipment that goes out of Prusa has a glue stick in it, you would think that they had something to say about it. Now, the way they get around it is the i3 Mark III printer is $800 for the kit. And I remember in some communications they said something like, well, we've made arrangements to have this shipment cleared, it's cool with Customs. So it's pre-cleared with Customs, which is why they sail through. And that's not true with the SL1 printer shipments. And that was part of why I got lulled into this sense of complacency with the whole Customs thing, because I'm on my third Prusa printer. What could possibly go wrong? So I'm kind of still pissed off and steaming about this, but stay tuned, and we'll see if we can't get it in. It's a whole new deal for me. I've never touched a resin printer, and I think it would be a useful tool, but they sure made it miserable. So welcome aboard, everybody who joined while I was ranting. But I bet you, Adam, you didn't expect the answer you got. Hey, Bart. So I have 3 printers. I have 3 FDM printers in the basement, and they're cranking out whatever I come up with, and I need it, I print it, and it's going. And 3 printers, because if I have to just do production, I have to make trays. All of my trays for the stones are printed by me, right? And that's part of the whole song. When you buy PFG stones, is the tray is part of the deal, and it's actually, once you start using them, you realize how wonderful the tray is. So, hey, Mark. I hope your name is Mark. I'm guessing. Okay, good question there, Adam, in the faraway time zone. Okay, what else do we have today? You guys want to ask any other questions? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I really need a caricature of some character that you have conjured up, and you need it drawn in a magnificent art style. That's probably what you're thinking. So you should go to conjet.art and check it out and see if commissions are open, because Conjet might be able to draw your character. And many of you are characters. So check it out, conjet.art. That was a commercial. That lowers how much tuition I have to pay. So, does anybody remember who asked the Hilltop Steakhouse question? I don't remember, but here's your answer. Hilltop Steakhouse closed in 2012, so Hilltop is gone. Sorry. I do have a joke for you guys today, and if we wrap things up at 12:45, which is my plan, I'll tell you the joke that I researched, and I will have to find a new one for next week. That is an amazing username, Tuna. So for those of you, I see a lot of new names. For those of you who are new, we're here in the Kinetic Precision shop, and I'm sitting in front of my grinder. Can't even see it. And there he is. We're about to get some work done today. Almost Machining says, for time, this is fine. I was just up far too late. Scraping in a work surface, still not finished. You're preaching to the choir. I understand the scraping disease, and it is a good thing. One of these days, I'm going to get back to scraping. I took the training, but I have not given myself scraping projects. I've been kind of busy. So what else you guys up to? I don't have any wisdom for you today. I was kind of pooped out by the last 10 days of massive stone grinding, which really came out well. I was very, very happy with getting caught up and the quality of the product that we were cranking out. Oh, somebody asked me, I don't think he's on, but I'll say it to the group that's here. I did a platen. The scrape. Okay, so low quality DS memes says, one of these days I'll get back to scraping. The scraping anthem. Yeah, I could sing the anthem. And Bart says, hand or power scraping. So the training I took was with Richard King, and we start with hand scraping and go through power scraping. So I'm fully equipped. I tell that to everybody. I'm fully equipped with hand scrapers and power scrapers, and theoretically I know how to use them. I do not have a power flaker. I would be kind of interested in finding a biax flaker. And I know that's completely ridiculous because I haven't done any scraping in the last, at least the last year, if not the last 2 years. But I kind of want one to complete the set. So if anybody has a flaker sitting around, I'm on the sort of black, it's either dark green or black biaxes generation. I'd love to find a matching flaker for it for reasonable money. Anyway, what's a flaker? What's a flaker? Was that a mill next to the grinder? That answer is no, but I'll talk about shop tour in a minute. A flaker, if you look at a scraping job, let me grab a scraping job, and do I have anything that's flaked? We'd have to walk over to the mill. Well, let's walk over to the mill. Come on, let's take a walk, and I'll show you a couple of examples. So, yeah, so this is a straight edge that I scraped. So this is scraped, not flaked. So that's what a scraping job looks like. And if I don't say so myself, it's a pretty good scraping job. So that's scraping. Okay. Now we're going to walk over to a machine. And we have the Mr. Bridgeport over here. Okay. And let's expose the Bridgie. All right. So what you're seeing here, the average person who's not trained in flaking would look at this and say, or in scraping, would look at this and say, "Oh, what a nice scraping job." That's not scraping. That's flaking. Flaking is making pockets for holding the oil. And usually, if you do a scraping job, you have to decide, not usually, after you do a scraping job, you have to decide if the surface you just scraped needs to be the surface that gets flaked to hold the oil. So this is, if I had a guess, this is a ground and then flaked surface. So technically, no scraping was done here. This is flaking, not scraping. In other words, scraping makes the surface flat. Flaking gives it oil pockets, and it's a very nice pattern. And this was nicely done, but that's not a scraped surface. That's a flaked surface. So you could have it could be ground. Look at me. It can be ground and flaked, or it can be hand scraped and flaked. So did I answer your question on what's a flaker? So the flaker itself, hey Adam, we're talking about other topics right now. That's not grinding. So when you scrape, okay, you're using a scraper in a very conventional way. When you flake, you usually use the scraper in a funny way and you hit it with your hand, but there's also a power flaker so that as you move it, it makes those scoopy motions and it makes those nice half moves. So you could do both scraping and flaking with a hand scraper, and it's just skill that lets you do the flaking. And you can also buy a power scraper and a power flaker. They have different motions in the blade. So that's, I hope, the answer. Do some searching on the YouTube. I think there's some excellent videos. So Adam, what do you got cooking today? I bet you're grinding parts for a customer. Because it's Sunday. Yeah, there you go, man. We're not going to turn this into the scraping hour, because I am not an expert. I am trained, but not an expert. There's a lot better people that at it. Oh, we're milling today. Are we hard milling? I bet you're hard milling. Yeah, I think so, Bart. I think a power flaker rotates the blade. I'm not 100% sure, but when I've seen them used, they're fast and nice. Scrapers charge a bunch, but it's worth it. Yeah, if you get something scraped in by a hard stainless, nice. What alloy? If you get something hand scraped by a scraper hand that knows what they're doing, it's worthy. Back to the grinder then. Indicator on the wheel. Ah, you saw that. So earlier I posted a quickie video about an indicator running on the periphery of a wheel, and I will grab my. Oh, actually, it's right over. It's right over here. Should we go over there and do it live? M930, 390, M390. Never heard of it, Adam. I always learn something when I talk to you. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're pushing the flaker. Yeah, it's not just pushing a flaker across the surface. There's skill involved, but right. If you're doing a lot of scraping, a power scraper and a power flaker makes things go fast, and it does the work. Yes. So let's take a look. There was a question about indicator on a grinding wheel? Question mark. All right. So here we are at the grinder. The magnet is off, so it's, my hand is not sticking to it. That was a joke. So here's the setup. Let's see if I get steady here. So there's a tenths indicator. Okay. With a 2000ths shim taped to it, and the indicator is riding on the shim. And this is how you don't grind your indicator point. There's variations on a theme, but I think I learned this from Robin Renzetti, and this is my implementation of the same. Okay, and what we do is we just, not under power, we could just check our wheel concentricity. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, well, what do you mean? You've trued this wheel. It should be concentric. And the answer is yes, that is correct. I'm checking it. I'm confirming that what I think is true is true. And it's true. All right. So when you put a brand new diamond wheel on, you actually can bump the diamond wheel into concentricity using this technique first. Yeah, Chris, it's electrical tape. It's not any old tape. Come on. You can bump the wheel into concentricity first, which makes getting it trued in way quicker and less painful. And this modification, that's a modification to the grinding wheel adapter, where we take the ring and we drill and tap it for set screws. Lets you use set screws to tighten down on the wheel instead of rotating the ring, and that lets you tighten the wheel without moving it once you've tapped it into position. That's a shortened version of what Robin taught. So I've implemented what he taught, and it works great. And this is how you do it. So this is again, this is just a check. This is not a new wheel. This is an old wheel, and this is just a sanity check because it was dismounted and then remounted. Does that answer that question? And then earlier, I took another tenths reading indicator and put it right on the spindle and confirmed 0, on the spindle. So those are the two things. So now there's no, you're out of excuses. And also it tells you that the truing that you're doing, in my case, hang on. I had to demag the chuck. In my case, I'm using a holder that I made and a piece of molybdenum to true the wheel. So after you use the molybdenum at the appropriate RPM, it's nice to do what we just did and say, yeah, it's doing its job. M390 is a molding steel that knife people claim as theirs. Ho-ho! Shots fired. Adam, nice job. I think knife people do that a lot, so that's all right. I read something that some knife maker uses A2. And yeah, this is like the religious wars here. Amongst the knife maker steels. That's pretty funny. Guys, I'll grind anything. If it sticks to the chuck, I'm in. Even if it doesn't stick to the chuck. So the wheel has enough play to move around a bit to tap in place. Funny you should ask that. I have another story for you, and I know we're going a little longer than I planned. Oh, the scissors in your avatar are M390. I remember when you made those, Adam. You posted something about those. So I order my diamond wheels from Continental Diamond Tools, CDT, and they're fantastic. And I ordered an 1.25 inch hole, all the usual stuff. Well, when they came in, the 1.25 inch hole was an 1.25 inch, 0. Low quality DS meme says, I'm not going to a religious war with the knife guys. They always have like 3 knives. Yes, they do. So the hole in the wheel came in 1.25000. And of course my Sopco adapter, if you measure the OD of the adapter, guess what it was? 1.25000. So what I did is I took the adapter itself, and I know I could have modified the wheel, but that would have been actually harder. So I took the adapter itself, I put it on a rotary jig, and I rotary ground, I think I took 8 thousandths off the diameter. So now I have plus or minus 4 thousandths of jiggle of the wheel on the adapter, and it is in those plus or minus 4 thousandths that I bump in the wheel. So the answer to your question is yes, the wheel gets bumped in, and of course you use something soft to bump it in. I misplaced, this is not what I used to bump it in. This is my general purpose brass bumper around the grinder, and then you can take something soft like a piece of plastic. This is plastic, and do this to knock the wheel where you need to get it, and then you're just using the indicator, just using the tenths indicator. And once that's right, you go in with your Allen key and you tighten up those. You have 3 of the 6 Allen screws just a little snug, and after you're done with your little tapping dance, you go around and you tighten all 6, just like you're tightening a wheel on a car. You're alternating the pattern, and And then when that's all done, the wheel is where you had it. Whereas if you tap it in with the normal nut and washer, there's a washer there, and then you go to tighten that nut, it's not as it has a possibility of moving. And so the set screws are landing on a washer, and the washer is pushing on the wheel. So it takes away the influence of the nut. Indiana John is serious. All right, 12:56. I'm going to wrap this up with a joke, and then I'm going to let you guys go. So this happened in an MIT dorm room. It was a triple, and there's an engineer, a physicist, and a mathematician in this room when suddenly there's a fire and all of their mattresses catch on fire. The engineer jumps out of bed, assesses the situation, grabs a bucket of water, dumps it on the mattress, extinguishing the fire, and goes back to bed on a wet mattress. The physicist jumps out of bed, observes the situation, carefully calculates exactly how much water is necessary to put out the fire, measures out that water, dumps it on the flames, extinguishing the mattress and leaving it dry, and he goes back to bed. The mathematician observes that this is a problem that's already been solved, and he goes back to bed on a burning mattress. And that's your joke for the week. So, welcome aboard, guys that are just joining. Of course, we're just closing. If you missed the joke, you have to go back to the video, which will be posted on IGTV. By the way, I learned something this week. There's a separate app for IGTV. And it's kind of like, it's a separate app. So if you have like an iPhone or whatever, I recommend you go download the IGTV app. So all of our previous Instagram lives, IG lives, are in IGTV. When I get around to it, I will download those and put them up on YouTube also. But they're not on YouTube, they're just on IGTV. So all you need is the app, and you'll find previous episodes. Okay, 2 minutes left. Last chance for any snide remarks or questions before I have to go back to work. I'll drink some tea while you think about it. Today's tea, by the way, is a mixture of Irish breakfast tea and English breakfast tea because I like to start trouble. And it's delicious. Oh, so somebody had asked me, the wheel, well, for the work I do, the wheel life has been excellent. So, yeah, excellent wheel life. So, metal bond diamond wheel, molybdenum dressing, or molybdenum truing. Most of my grinding, as you know, with that wheel is on PFG Stones. And, yeah, thank you, Indiana John. Oh, thank you for asking about the elbow. I'll give you an elbow report. And the wheel life has been excellent. But you start off with a $500 wheel. So if it was a resin bonded wheel, I'd be on my 25th wheel by now. Thanks for asking about the elbow. It's getting better, but it still is like yelling at me every now and then. So the muscle that is attached to the elbow here, and it comes around this way, is called the pronator teres, and it's what you use when you're using a screwdriver, or you're throwing a pitch, you're throwing a curveball, or you're doing a strike in Taekwondo. There's a lot of rotation. So I have to be a little careful with it, but it's healing up. It's a slow heal. This one's a slow heal. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. But it's getting better. Okay, guys, it's 1300 on the East Coast. It's 1700 Zulu, and I think we went long enough. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being here. I'm going to get back to work, and so should you. Get flat. Stay flat. We'll see you guys next week.